It was never supposed to end like this. Jay walked the red carpet with confidence, wearing tailored suits that fit his lean frame and a smile that made the audience lean in. He had the charisma of a leading man, charming, ambitious, admired. He was successful, wealthy, celebrated by fans. On the surface, he had everything most people dream about. But beneath the veneer of Hollywood glamour, Jay was in a darker narrative, one that no one saw coming. He had begun watching porn as a student, just a curiosity at first, a private diversion after a hard day, something to make the stress melt away. Fast forward a decade, and that small escape had grown into a daily ritual. Sometimes he'd hide the habit for weeks, then binge for days on end. He lied to agents, friends, girlfriends. He stopped counting how many times he had promised he would quit, because by the end of the night he hadn't. Food became secondary. Sleep became erratic. Relationships drained him. He felt tired even when he wasn't. He was depressed even when he laughed. He was hopeful until he wasn't. It reached its lowest point on a Saturday morning after an award show. He awoke in a hotel room, somewhere foreign and strange, no recollection of the previous night. His phone was in airplane mode. His memory was hazy. He checked the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. The chemicals in his blood made his body feel remote, unreal. A late-night binge session left him so programmed that he couldn't even remember how it began. He realized something fundamental. He'd become someone else. He was no longer the person people fell in love with on screen. He was a prisoner chained to pixels. Leaving that hotel room, Jay felt exposed with a sickening realization. His career might not survive this. His contracts, endorsements, roles, they were all built upon an image. He'd been trading authenticity for addiction. He found himself spiraling into an abyss. Fear, shame, confusion, all coalescing into something he didn't know how to escape. For a man used to scripting his own narrative, building worlds, emotions, faces with intention, the porn addiction had pushed him into someone else's script, one he absolutely hated. Jay's turning point started with one conversation. A longtime assistant, Emily, came crying into his dressing room. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice trembling. "But you're not okay. People on set are worried. You stopped taking direction. You missed a line. You look lost." Jay didn't react. Instead, he broke down. Because she was right. He was lost. He locked himself in that dressing room and wept. Celebrity tears, fueled not by heartbreak or loss, but by fracture from who he was and who he'd become. He'd hit a crossroad, not in some Hollywood story, not in cameras or fans, just inside the mirror he refused to face. The next morning, Jay checked himself into rehab, not for drugs or alcohol, but for porn addiction. A few weeks later, he started speaking in a men's support group on the property. Small circle of strangers sharing histories that mirrored his own. Shame, secrecy, escalation, regret. In that group, he learned to put words to his behavior, to call it something real, addiction, not a moral weakness, not just stress, addiction, a chronic issue in the brain's reward system. Over months, he did therapy. He did exercises. He learned about neuroplasticity, the scientific phenomenon where the brain restructures neural pathways based on behavior. He understood how pleasure signals hijack motivation circuits. He learned to silence the internal voice that said, "just one more." He practiced mindfulness. He built morning routines. He replaced screen time with reading. He replaced shame with structure. He formed digital habits. He redesigned his environment. In 6 months, he emerged. He had fewer roles, but a clearer mind. He had no endorsement for a fast food chain, but had reclaimed a sense of self, which was worth more. He hated public attention, but he began sharing his story humbly, softly, in interviews that prioritized accountability over celebrity. One reporter asked, "Are you worried this might scare your fans?" He paused. "Let them see it. Let them know the cost." Because addiction isn't glamorous. Jay's experience echoes patterns seen in scientific research. When porn becomes the dominant dopamine source, normal rewards, intimacy, achievement, connection feel dull. Mutable, scaled down, because the brain is pushing for bigger, synthetic impacts. In rigorous studies, some individuals report needing increasingly extreme or more frequent visual stimulation to feel satisfied. Brain scans show altered connectivity in reward related regions, especially when addiction goes unchecked. This isn't about willpower, it's about a brain wired to chase highs, but gradually numb to life. Jay read about this in cognitive therapy, saw it in practice, recognized it in himself. He understood that success doesn't build a fortress against addiction. It might fuel it. When loneliness, success, and high stress combine, pornography becomes a cheap sedative with a sour twist. So Jay rebuilt with intentionality. He inventoried his life. Inventory is more than lists. It's purpose. It's values. It's why he stands before camera again, authentically. His first project after rehab was a short documentary for a nonprofit. No glamour, no red carpet. Just men telling stories. Porn ruined this, but this is how we rebuilt. His next movie was smaller scale. Character driven, deep, honest. A stark contrast to the blockbuster fantasies he once played. He began speaking at universities, PFLAG groups, men's gatherings. His vulnerability became his greatest asset. At a Q&A, a young fan asked him, "How do I protect myself before it's too late?" He took a breath. Check your habits before they check you. Install accountability. Track your time. Save relationships, not just scripts. He began urging viewers to practice small habits, self-check-ins, screen timers, transparency with a friend, digital curfews, to block the screen, build a bridge to people, to feeling, to life. Because Jay knew addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't need underground. It thrives anywhere shame and desperation collide with temptation. And telling his story was a message, not just to fans, to anyone with a screen in their pocket. This isn't a tragedy. Not anymore. Because Jay chose to rewrite his narrative with integrity. He chose recovery over celebrity. He chose stealth and sincerity over flash. This is why, if you clicked on this video, if this pulls at your chest, it matters. Because maybe your story is also waiting for clarity. Maybe your crisis can become a turning point. You don't need a rehab center or a celebrity platform. You need awareness, a moment of courage, a step toward help. If Jay's story moved you, pause for a second, reflect, then act. Maybe limit your screen time tonight. Maybe set up an accountability partner. Maybe talk to someone you trust. Whatever it is, do something. Because like Jay, action is the hinge that turns shame into recovery. You may never walk the red carpet, but you can walk back into your own life. And maybe, someday, share your story to save someone else from a dark narrative that could have been stopped.